Welcome to the House Hacking Success Podcast, where you'll learn the path to free rent and financial freedom through real estate. Featuring your hosts, Brad Labrie and Drew Klingler.
Welcome to House Hacking Success. Today we have Mike Ealy on the show. Mike's an apartment investor, and he's going to talk about how when he started as a house hacker, and now he's up to over 1,200 apartment units. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm good, brother. How you been, man?
Been wonderful. Great to have you on.
Hey, thanks, brother. I love it, man. Love it, man. Appreciate what you're doing, man.
So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, man. So in summary, a lot of people think I do real estate, and yes, I do. But our real goal is we help investors get to their investment destination. And we act as a bridge for them, whether they want to be educated, and because there's nothing better but having a great educated investor. And we train them on how to find deals, analyze the deals, be a passive investor, an active investor. And then from there, we'll plug them into apartment and hotel deals. And so from there, they can do large deals. And we kind of got a program called Big Deal Hacking. Yeah. And so, but it's funny about your show. I started off house hacking before they coined the phrase house hacking. As far as I knew, I just got a roommate.
Yeah, roommate paying rent.
Yeah, there you go.
So when you got started, how did you discover house hacking? Or, it wasn't house hacking then, but how'd you come up with the idea?
Yeah. So what happened? I read No Money Down in the 90s by Robert Allen, and he talked about how you can get properties and cash flow, and it was just simple math. One unit will pay for the mortgage, the other one you profit. So that's just basically how that did the numbers. I didn't go into the deep details about the taxes, insurance, and everything. I was like, look, if this one unit can pay for all them bills, or majority of them, where I have one unit that I'm profiting, it's a deal. And that's how I did it. And so I got my first deal on a rent-to-own / land contract. The owner financed it. My mortgage was $700 a month. So not knowing how to paint, I didn't know any construction. I just read a book, right? Never painted in my life. And a matter of fact, just show you how bad I was, I started painting upstairs to get the unit ready. And the guys that had helping me sent me back downstairs because I was that great. Okay. But anyway, I got that second floor rented, Section 8 for $500. Then I had my sister as a roommate. She paid me $200. And then I started living the dream. I was living rent free. I did have some utilities, but for the most part, so I went from paying $500-$600 in rent to nothing. And so I'm living free. And then I just did it again. I got me some 2 4-families, no money down deal. What was that? The realtor, he lent me his commission to buy the deal. And then I immediately paid him back at closing because I was able to get, the deposits and first month's rent because I timed it to close at the beginning of the month. So I got the first month's rent and deposit, paid my realtor back. I was in the deal for no money down. Then that money I was cash flowing from there, paid my car payment. Now I was living the dream. As I always say, I felt like Dave Chappelle. I'm Rick James, bitch. So yeah.
I love it. So let's go back to that first deal. So how'd you end up finding that deal? How'd you finance that one?
So in that day, we didn't have the internet, right? I'm showing my age. We had the Inquirer, baby, the newspaper. You looked in the ads. What was that? The ads? It wasn't even the ads section. What was that section called? I forgot what.
Like real estate section?
Yeah, it was I forgot what you called that section of the paper, but
yeah,
they had all the ads, a little thing that you buy, and then I saw a owner financing deal. And I was like, sounds great for me because I had limited cash. I had about $3,000 and that's all I had to my name. And I had bad credit. So I had to work on my credit, and I was working 2-3 jobs at the time. I had a great day. My day started at basically 12:30, or let's just say midnight. And I would throw papers in the Enquirer from my car, throwing papers, the daily newspaper, 7 days a week. And then then I would go Monday through Friday. I go to my daily job from like 9 to 5, 9 to 4. And then my favorite part of the day, about 2-3 days out of the week, I would sell beer at the stadium. I was ice cold beer. And I was selling at the Reds and the Bengals game, man. But it was good money, man. And I ended up making like $1,000, $12,000 to $1,500 a week. And so I did that for, I don't know, 5-6 months. I paid all my debt. Was it 12?
1,200, not 12,000.
No, I'm saying, yeah, I wasn't making 12,000 a week. I was making 1,200 a week, and but I paid all my bills off, and I saved enough money to buy that. But I did one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then I lost it all. It went broke. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. But
we'll get into that. I think it's cool though. I mean, what you did, you're working 3-4 jobs just to get started, and it's what you got to do, right? Like,
you gotta make
those are 2 big
man.
steps, right? The goal is to free up your time, but to start, you got to spend a lot of time to build. And you got into that house hack, paying nothing for rent. I mean, that makes a huge impact. I think that's a huge impact for anyone trying to get started.
Man, I'm telling you, once you get, I mean, look, I'm doing big deals, but I started from the bottom, right? And I remember it to this day, 20 years later. I'll never forget when I didn't have to worry about a car payment or a mortgage payment, which are your 2 biggest bills. And then after I got another one, all my expenses were paid. Like I was working and I was banking my regular 9-to-5 job check. I banked it. You couldn't tell me nothing. I know I was only saving $1,800 a month, but I was rich. Like I ain't have no bills.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I was financially free. I wasn't a slave to anything. Like it didn't matter. So it doesn't really matter if you got, I mean, it does. Okay. I don't want to take away, but starting off, you don't have to have $1 million, man. If you have options at the end of the month, that's everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I can go out to eat. I can take a vacation. I can pay a medical bill, not worry about not paying another bill. That's freedom, man. And fortunately, at the time I didn't have any kids or family, married or anything, but just imagine that happening now. You're married, kids, and you don't have to worry about a car payment or a mortgage payment, like paid, because you got cash flow coming in. And that's the dream. That's the goal. And that should be a big BHAG.
I like your point too. Like you don't have to have $1 million to do that either. I mean, what we talk a lot about on the show is just these owner occupied loans. You can go in with you can get 3 to 10% conventional. You can get 3.5% FHA loans. There's different ways. There's programs where you can get down payment assistance.
Yeah.
You can do seller concessions, have the seller pay for the closing fees, wrap it into the loan. There's so many ways to pay, so little. I mean, a 3.5% down payment on a $200,000 home is $7,000 plus closing costs. So, I mean, you could save up for a year, work an extra job, save up for a year, get into that house hack. You eliminate your housing expense.
Well, but not only that, I mean, for some of you that are concerned about, you say that so easy, $7,000, that's a lot of money. Well, look, there's other ways you can get it. There's a life insurance policy. You may have a life insurance policy, and for those you don't know, you have equity in those as long as you don't have a term. You could use your credit card. I had a guy, I sold him a 4-family. He didn't have $10,000 to put for a down payment. He borrowed it from his credit card. No, you know what? I take that back. He borrowed a portion from the credit card, but he did the entire renovation from his credit card.
Oh, okay.
And then sold the deal, made $30,000. His first 4-family deal.
That's great.
So, so there's numerous ways. And heck, you can borrow the money from somebody.
Or your 401k, you can borrow from that too. You can take a loan out on that. Yeah.
And why not your 401k? I mean, if you're going to pay somebody, pay yourself. Most 401k deals, even though you borrow the money, you're paying interest back, you're actually paying yourself back. So you're actually making more money. So just use the resources you have.
Yeah, it's just getting started. I mean, once you eliminate those expenses and get those covered, everything just snowballs from there.
Oh yeah, because you can think, man. You can think. You ain't worried about stuff.
Yeah, it's freeing. Let's talk a little bit about. So you did a bunch of no money down deals, and I read your story, so I know what happens. But you said that you kind of became over leveraged from doing that.
Yeah, so back in the day, man, I did those no money down deals, and they're great. I actually kind of use some of them techniques and deals, even these large multi-unit deals, $5-10 million deals, 20. I still do it, but those are to kind of get you started, and you got to be disciplined in that. But even when I use those techniques, I don't over leverage. Over leveraging is basically you're borrowing the amount that the property's worth, basically future value, after repair value. That's when you over leverage. So let's say you do a deal, right? And it's only worth 100. And so you borrow 100, or you borrow 105 or 110. That's over leverage, because if you get in there's let's say a correction in the market, or something happens in the market, you're not going to be able to sell. And if you sell, you got to sell at a discount, which then now it's a short sale to the bank. Now you're in an issue. So you don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to buy undervalued, meaning let's say it's worth 100. Let's say you buy it for 50,000 and you got to put 20,000 in repairs. So now you're in for 70. Now, if you borrow $70,000 for acquisition and renovation, then that's healthy leverage, because it's worth 100,000. So, right, you got 30,000 in equity. But if you leverage it all the way up to 100 or more, that's unhealthy leveraging. And so back then when I was doing it, you could pick your appraiser and you could tell them what you need the appraisal to come into. I know that's crazy, and so we were getting deals and money back at closing, man. And so what happens when you were supposed to take that money and go do other deals is what I did. But when you keep doing deals and you take all the money out, if you don't start doing highly profitable deals, you're going to get hit. And that's exactly what happened to me.
What'd you end up learning from that? Like, what lessons did you learn? What did you take away to where you've changed your strategies today?
I learned that I never want to go live back with my mama and daddy, because they painted my old room pink and lavender, and they still had the old sailboat bed, twin bed. I had to sleep in that, man. No, man, that was growing. I appreciate it. I don't want to go back again, but yeah, no, over leveraging is one, man. And you got to do deals that are worthwhile. No matter what you do, whether it's a $20,000 deal or a multi-million-dollar deal, there's some more decimals and commas in place, right? Well, more commas, not decimals, but there's more commas. But you're going to put the same amount of work in. There's a little due diligence on like a multi-million-dollar deal, but for the essence of it, on $100,000 deal, you got the same amount of work. You're dealing with the same issues. So my point is, make it worthwhile, because if you working on a deal and you're not making money, it is not fun. Feeding it, not being able to sleep. So, do your due diligence, make sure you're getting undervalued, uh, put your team together, and, go to work and have fun and make a lot of money, man.
Absolutely. So after that, after doing all those deals, you sort of had to start over. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So you eventually found a private lender.
Yeah.
How'd you do that? How'd you meet a private lender? And what did that do for you?
Yeah, so when I lost everything, moved back home, real estate is all I knew. And so I was like, well, let me get my real estate license and learn the market. And so I got my license and still wasn't really good at that either. Well, that's another story. But bottom line, I ended up starting getting listings, and I only really wanted to work with investors. So I ended up getting a 4-family listing, and we just started talking. I started explaining to him all the deals I was doing and what I liked. And this was an older gentleman that just moved from Atlanta, and he had just sold a multi-unit down in Atlanta, and he was like, "Hey, I got money. I want to lend," and it was that simple. And so he lent me 200,000 at 10% interest only with 2 points, and that was the beginning of our deals. I think I did my first deal with him was, all right, see you, buddy. My first deal was like a little single family house I bought for like 13,000, or I was either bought it for 7,000, all in for 13, or one or the other. And I fixed it up and sold it for 26,000 and got a tenant for it. So, that was just the beginning of the career, and I was excited, and we just kept doing more and more deals. And how I got more in private investors. I love to teach. That's my gift. That's my superhero talent, right? And so I started teaching at all the adult ed classes around here called Scarlet Oaks. And I taught all the real estate classes all over the city. And every class, I always had somebody wanting to come do a deal or lend me money or want me to represent them. And I still have those investors today, except for, well, 2 of them. Unfortunately, they got older and they passed away on me. But if it wasn't for that, they'd still be with me today investing.
That's amazing. So a lot of our listeners, I'm sure at some point they'll want to take on private money and start the search to build a relationship with a private lender. What
Mm-hmm.
advice would you have to our listeners that have that goal?
One thing in partnerships, because people don't look at the private lender as a partner, but they really are a financial partner, or a team member. They're a member of your team because they're going to be funding your deals. My private investors were funding 100% of my deals and renovations, and so one, you want to be real with them, right? Don't be something you're not. Just be you. Uh, and do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to return their money in 6 months, make sure you return their money in 6 months. Now, I understand sometimes things happen because, trust me, I had an investor where I was only supposed to have his money for about 8 months. Ended up having his money for 24 months, maybe 36. But I kept paying, and I paid even more because I got into a situation. But you don't quit. I wasn't making any money, but you keep paying that bill. You want your investor to keep coming back? Keep paying and paying them what you say you're going to do. But make sure your goals are aligned, right? Don't just, hey, this guy's got $1 million and he wants to lend. I understand. If he has set terms and y'all can live with that, then quite frankly, move forward. But if y'all not on the same goal, and they feel that you feel that he's greedy or trying to take over, then don't do the deal. I've turned down quite a few investors. Matter of fact, I gave people their money back. I had one investor, he only gave me $35,000. I'm supposed to use it for about 6 months. He was supposed to get like 5,000 back plus cash flow. But he kept calling me every day, bugging me over and over again. And to the point I couldn't deal with him. I couldn't get work done. I literally wrote him a check for 40,000, said, here's your money, leave me alone. Don't want to talk to you. Don't want to do any more deals with you. And then from that experience, when I was out raising, a million or two at a time, I had someone act just like that. But we had a great rapport, a great conversation, and I needed the money, man. It was like, hey, I got $1 million I want to invest with you, and I could bring more. And I was really excited, but after I thought about it, I was like, this is not a good match. I don't want to move forward, and I politely turned the money down. And to this day, if I don't feel it's a good match, I won't use your money. Don't matter how much you got. I like sleeping at night. I like having great relationships, and I want people to depend on me. And so, and everyone has a job. So their job is to lend money. My job is to make returns. And so that's what I do.
It makes a lot of sense too. And you're probably trying to build long-term relationships
That's right.
when you're picking up a private lender. So if you don't mesh at the beginning, it makes sense to not continue and look for someone that you do mesh with.
There you go.
Cool. So, could you tell us about your first multi-unit deal? What was that like? What was the experience for you?
Now we're talking about like 4 families or more like larger when I got like 16 to 48.
So you got started with smaller like residential multi-units, and then
So I
you built
started
up.
off.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I started off like I was a house hacking. I did a 2-family, and then I always was into multi-units because what I liked about that is if one unit went vacant, there still was another unit to help the cash flow. Whereas you have a single-family house, that goes vacant. You still got all those expenses, and now we own that. Like COVID, with these eviction mandatoriums, whatever it is. Some of them are going to be hurt. The smaller guys, 3 or 4 units, houses, and it goes vacant. They're going to have to feed that, and that's going to be a challenge. So that's why I like the multi-unit. So I started off with a 2-family, then about 2 4-families with an 8-unit. And man, you couldn't tell me nothing. I was netting like $300 a unit, $600 extra a month. So I had car payment, gas. I was $900. I was living free, and then I had that, and then about another 2-family, and then I just kept going, and then but that's when I lost it all, and I just didn't have the right tools, wasn't buying right. But when I did it over again, we started doing these multi-units, and we were killing it, man. And I'll never forget, I got a 28 unit. It was a 28 unit in the West End, which is now just an amazing neighborhood. And I mean, we did extremely well. Like with 4 units occupied, that paid my mortgage and the taxes. So I mean, it was great. Now, although it was in the D area, it was you need to manage it more, as management intensive as I would call it. And I wouldn't advise buying in DNF neighborhoods, but starting off, if that's the only way you can get started, do it. You'll learn the game, you learn what you can do, you'll learn how to control your costs. But doing C, B, and A properties is like being in heaven, brother. So, if you can avoid it, stay away from it.
Well, so from reading your story, it sounded like doing DNF properties was kind of a niche for you and brought some lenders.
Yeah, I mean, because once you do a D and F property and you succeed there, you can succeed in any type of market. And in DNF properties, you got to be strategic and control your costs because, a lot of D properties, you'll have a lot of great cash flow, but you don't have a lot of appreciation at all. And a lot of times when you buy a DF property, you're going to sell it for pretty much what you paid for, right? Because there's some upside. Like I made a lot of money in DNF. That was my niche. Nobody wanted those, and I could cash flow. That was just my thing. But I did. The main reason I did those, I didn't know any other areas. Not that I actually grew up in the DNF neighborhood. I just knew those neighborhoods where my other friends, they knew the B and A neighborhoods. And that's because I can't say if they grew up there or they just really studied the market, but it was a lower cost of entry for me So that's why I stayed in those neighborhoods. But I'm telling you, once I got to the C and B, you know, when you in the DNF property, tenants will call you in November or December, say, "Hey, Mr. Mike, uh, hey, I'm gonna be late on my rent." And you're like, "Okay, sure, when?" And they were like, "I could pay you in February when I get my tax return." So I'm like, "Damn." But I had to be creative and work with them. And without a doubt, by February, they paid their rent, with their tax return. I'm not saying that it always worked out like that, but, we had to be creative. Whereas when I got to my C and B properties, they would be like, "Hey, I'm going to be late on my rent." I'm like, "What's late?" And next thing you know, they say, uh, this is the 30, they call them the 28th or the 31st. And they say, "I'm gonna be late." And they say, I'm saying, "What's late?" And they say, I'll pay it on the 3rd. And I'm like, "Well, shoot, I'm good with that."
Yeah, late fees don't even kick in before then. So that must have been an interesting transition going from DNF to switching over to B&A properties.
Yes. Oh, much, much greater. I never thought I would be buying A properties, man, because I just thought it was expensive. But it's all in your perspective, how you analyze it. I mean, yes, they were selling at a 6 cap, um, but for what we realize is some of these people, man, they've held on to, if you find the right seller, they've held on to them so long and never pushed the rents up. It was like buying at a 10 cap, because we could have went in and immediately pushed the rents by $300 or $400, but they just been there so long and been so comfortable. They just said, "Forget it. We'll just sell it and invest in something new."
So nowadays, when you're looking for a new deal, another apartment, what kind of criteria are you looking at, and how do you know if it's a good deal or not?
So it's all about the numbers, and we're looking at price per square foot. Now with the smaller single family and 4 families, you're not so much. These numbers don't get us technical, but like for me, I want to find a unit that's undervalued. The rents are low, for example. And then once you're saying rents are low, they in large multi units, they look at the square footage. So in Cincinnati, everything is renting above $1.10 a square foot. So in essence, let's say you got 1,000 square foot unit, and it's a 2-bedroom, and if you're renting it for 500, well, you're renting it for 50 cents a square foot. So, I'm like, well, man, that should be at least $1 square foot, which would be 1,000. So, and so we look for that low hanging fruit. And that's what kind of got us past the last 3 years. We were finding units that were in pockets where they were only renting the 1-bedrooms for $350 or $450. Where I just sold something in a C neighborhood, which I felt was a worse neighborhood, where we were getting 500 for the 1s and 600 for the 2s. And like I said, they were getting 350 and 450 or 400. So me, I was like, let's take that deal. We don't need to do a lot of work to it. And I immediately pushed the rents, from what the 1-bedrooms went from 300 to 600. Now, in my performer, I only had 550. We ended up getting 720 for the 1-bedrooms. Over $300 more, 2x on the rents. And then for the 2-bedrooms, we went from projecting 600 to 929. So we got caught with a little bit of inflation, a little bit of time, and then just the market. So, those are the kind of deals we look for. But at minimum, we want to be able to push the rents by $100 $100 a unit, or, at least 20, 30 cents a square foot. And if we can do that, then that means we'll make more money, because when you get into multi-units, they're basing the value, not just the appraised value. Like if single family houses or 2 families, you're in that area, and that's an area where all the houses sell for 100, 130. That's great. Not the same with multi-units. It's based on your cash flow. So easily, if you can push the rents up, your property is worth more. And so just by, pushing the rent by $50, you can create a value of on 100 units. Here, let's just do the math. So let's say you got a 100-unit building, right? A 100-unit building, push the rent by $50. That's $5,000 more a month times 12. That's 60,000. And you divide that by 8 cap. I mean, you just created a value of $750,000. I mean, you see how simple that was?
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's why we love it.
Yeah, so you're finding these properties, they're undervalued specifically because the rent is undervalued?
Majority of the time it's rent. Like the one we bought in Bond Hill in Cincinnati. We knew because we had just sold one kind of across the street from it. They had the rents too low. They had the rents at $600 and it was all 2 bedrooms, but we knew that the rents could be $850 to $900. I was like, we're going to do that deal. And we knew we had to do minimum work. Like we just had to paint, maybe replace some carpet, put some flooring in and some roofing. So I think we bought that for 1.3, 1.4. We're going to be all in for 1.7, 1.8 and sell it for 2.3 to 2.6.
So when you're looking at these too, and you're seeing rent is 700, and you're like, well, we could buy this, push rent to 800, 850. How are you discovering what you could push the rent to? Is it going to be based on comps in the area?
Yeah. So there's a simple one if you don't know, and it don't matter if you're doing large multi-units or small single-family houses. Rent-a-meter is a great tool to use. There's other things like there's some larger websites, but they're expensive, more expensive. But Rent-A-Meter is the simple, easy one. It tells you what all the rents are going for in that area, and it tells you what you think you can get. Now, is it always going to be 100% accurate? No, but if you kind of know, but if you don't have that, you simply can call around the other areas and see what they're getting. Before Rent-A-Meter was out, that's what we did to confirm the rents. All I did was call the neighboring apartment buildings and find out what they were written for. And if they were written for more, I was like, yeah, I got a deal. But, also I just know the market and I know the area, so I know what they should be written for.
You invested through 2008. It's always an interesting topic. And, whenever we get a chance to ask somebody about it, I'd love to ask. What was that like for you?
Man, 2008 was amazing, man. I made a lot of money in the recession. I became stable, because in 2001, really 2003, 2001 is when I began to start losing things. That was when 9/11 hit and I started falling apart. And so 2003 was where it really all fell apart. And then in that 5-year period, I started putting it back together. And in my 4th, 5th year, the Great Recession came. And that's when I made a lot of money. I was buying houses. I was buying and flipping houses, and now I'm owning houses free and clear. It was amazing. I didn't think that was something that would be possible. I heard about it and dreamed about it and prayed about it. And the next thing you know, you're looking up. It's like, Mom, no hands. I'm riding a bike with no hands. And Mom, I don't have a mortgage note. And it was amazing. I was buying mortgage notes for literally pennies on the dollar. Like it was about a note in Cleveland, and the guy had a debt of 120, and he owed 10,000 in back payments. I bought that note for $18,000.
Wow!
And I went back and restructured the note, and I was like, "Look, they say you owe $10,000. I'm gonna waive that, but what can you pay me a month if you don't want to leave?" And he's like, "I don't want to leave." I was like, "What can you afford?" He said, "I can pay $1,000 a month." I said, "All right, you pay $1,000 a month. I'm gonna set your debt to 100,000. We're gonna restart the clock." And that's the beginning. And so on $18,000, I was making $1,000 a month, and I have no maintenance, no nothing. I didn't have to go there. So it was an amazing deal. And I did multiple deals like that. And then people were in trouble. So they started selling off their deals and they give major incentives to buy. I had a developer. He had to get out of a deal. And I was like, I don't want it. Like it was a house I actually lived in, and they wanted what? It was worth 500-600, but then the market tanked, and he ended up selling it for. They ended up buying it really for 320. But they wanted to. But I was like, man, look, that's not my goal. I didn't want debt, right? I wanted to be financially free. Remember, I paid my car cash flow was paid for by cash flow. My mortgage note was paid by cash flow. I didn't want that bill. And so, because my goal was to buy a $60,000, $80,000 house, fix it up, and then 3 to 5 years pay it off. But he gave me a deal I couldn't refuse. And after going back and forth, they ended up giving me the house for like 420, gave me $100,000 back in closing, and they threw in 2 more deals. And they end up, I flipped those 2 deals they gave me so quickly, they end up giving me owner finance because I had a private lender that was lending money, but they were taking so long. I had fixed the house up and sold it. And then they just end up being another investor for me. So that's another thing about doing what you're supposed to and starting relationships. And so because of that, man, I mean, I did multiple deals like that. I had tons of cash. Finally had one of my first kind of dream home. I wanted to own a 3,000 square foot house. And I ended up owning 2 3,000 square foot houses. That was like my personal residence. And I had like, I don't know, 20 houses at the time or more. And about 6 of them were paid for in cash, my own personal cash. So, I wasn't complaining, man. I had like 4,000 or 5,000 in a month in net cash flow, net that was coming to me. So, I mean, I have room to breathe every month, man. I mean, I know some of you may say 5 ain't a lot, but, I put all the work in. So now I can think about what deals I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, 2008 was, you hear horror stories and all that stuff, but a lot of people that I've talked to, just like you, had found a lot of opportunity.
In Chinese, problem means opportunity. So, and then I seized the opportunity. Fortunately, I lost everything before the Great Recession. So because of that downfall, that's why I don't regret it. I learned about short sales. I learned about mortgage notes. I learned about calling the banks and restructuring the deal and how to buy a note. And so when that time came, I killed it, man. I'd probably be even wealthier if I had money, but I just didn't know, right? I didn't know what I know now. I knew enough to be dangerous.
Sure. So you, I mean, now you have 1,200 units, and we were talking about, you started off doing some commercial apartment deals, but what did it take to grow to that many units?
They coined the phrase, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And I just kept working at it, man, working hard every day, and then started obtaining partners, and they start bringing deals. And then I was picky about who I wanted to work with, man. I just didn't work with people would come and offer deals, and I would turn it down. But I had maintained the key thing though that got me to where I am is relationships with my brokers or people that brought me deals. I made sure they got paid. Sometimes I gave them a little more. Sometimes I brought them in the deal. Why? Because I want them to bring more and more deals. A lot of people, they try to not pay the realtor, man, or the broker. Now, I think that's the dumbest thing, and I get it. I've been on both sides. I've been a realtor and I've been the investor, because some of these investors are looking at the real like, you didn't even do anything. Like I found the deal, you write it up or whatever. But really, why wouldn't you pay? So let's take my Garden Lane deal. That was a 3% commission on a million 3 deal, right? And so for that, he received $30-something thousand commission. He brought me the deal. He didn't do anything else. He just said, Mike, I think this is a great deal and this is why. And you should buy it. And so some people are like, great. Do you have it listing? Do you have a listing? And they'll be like, no. And so they'll go right around him. And so I'm like, man, that's dumb. Why would you cut somebody out just so you ain't have to pay them $30,000? But you, on the other hand, gonna make $300,000 or $400,000. Why? You know, if you pay that person and just give them a little more, give them a tip, as I say, guess who he's gonna call when he has another deal?
Sure.
Yeah. So, yeah,
that's a really good point. Because they're gonna find deals too.
That's what they do.
I
don't have time. Yeah, I don't have time to look. Like, they cold calling probably 100-something people a day, man, and fine tuning relationship. You know, I mean, because look, let's just say it's 4,000 units, right? And out of 4,000, everybody ain't ready to sell, but 5 of them will be. You know, so you know how many calls you got to make every day to make that happen. I mean, that's a grind, and they only getting 30,000 off of that. You know,
Good to have boots on the ground. You know, a lot of people probably want to achieve the success that you've seen. And, you know, we talk about house hacking on the show and how it's a great way to get started. But from buying, you know, a duplex or a triplex and renting out a couple units, trying to picture yourself at 1,200 units from just that small start, you know, can be hard. What advice do you have for the listeners? You know, how can they grow to the success that you've seen?
Yeah, so one of the big things is your mindset, man. I mean, you got to change your mindset, and you change your surrounding, who you're around. You know, I like to explain the 4-minute mile. No one ever thought the 4-minute mile was possible until they saw this guy do it, and then once he did it, multiple people started doing it. So I changed who I was hanging around and who my relationship with. And I saw people do $1 million deals, or they'll do a flip, and off of a flip they netted $200,000. I was like, whoa, and they would do it over and over again. I was like, well, damn, I could do that. I don't know how, but I'm gonna do it. And then I started doing it. And then you know, in the books, what you feed, you know, instead of listening to all that music or watching Netflix all day, and trust me, I still watch Netflix, right? You know, I'm watching Cobra Kai right now, man. That's great.
Nice.
But what I learned, man, is just you read these books and it starts setting a different mindset for you. And one of mine was From Good to Great, Built to Last by Jim Collins. And they started talking about BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. And they make these goals that's so ridiculous that it's like, I don't know how it's possible to do. And what happens once you start setting a goal like that, and no matter what anybody else thinks, you start moving towards that. And when people understand that, they start to gravitate you and wanting to help you. And then once you start thinking like that, you'll start learning ways to achieve it. So that's why they say, look, don't worry about how you're going to do it. Just figure out what your goal is and start working to it. Start learning about it. And I knew I wanted to have, 100 hotels. No clue how I could do that. Matter of fact, we set the goal for 100 million. Matter of fact, true story. I set a goal for 300 million after I did 100 million, and I had no idea how to do it. None. I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna get the money from. I don't know it. And you know what? I was like, we're just gonna do it. And sure enough, so when I start telling people that was the goal, that was the projection, next thing you know, bond people start coming, and I got introduced to people. Then next thing you know, we were set up for finance. At the end, these funds or brokers start bringing me portfolios for 5 to 6 or 10 hotels that we could buy, and then the bond market would fund it 100%. So it just started coming all together. Now COVID hit, and I stopped that. But COVID is a great thing because now we're doing deals where I'm getting hotels even cheaper. And hell, instead of paying all that money I was going to pay, I'll probably that $300 million or $100 million portfolio I'll probably get for $50 million now.
That's crazy.
So
yeah, I mean, COVID must have really impacted that industry.
Oh man, the COVID really hit the hospitality industry hard. Not just hotels, but restaurants, theaters. Anything with entertainment. I mean, look, people ain't even shows right now, and so it's a great thing. We believe it's going to come back just like anything in history. Now it's not going to come back to the levels it was started off right away, but in about 3 years it'll be back. And so, people are going to sell at discounts because they can't take it no more. They're going to jump off. Well, I don't want to say that because people actually will. So, but people are going, they're going to move away from their hotels and just let them go. And we're just going to pick them up. We're going to assume the debt, take on the CMBS debt, and just bring in capital to cover the burn, as we'll say, the deficit for the next 6 to 7 months.
Yeah, a lot of opportunity that comes up. Yeah. Right? It's much like 2008 was.
The same thing, man. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna seize the opportunity. I think hotel apartments will take a hit, but not like before. I think single families will as well. But it will take some time. It's going to take some time. And not only that, I think there's a lot more money out there in the real estate market that can pick up some of these defunct portfolios or non-performing notes. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. And, since we're on the topic of, COVID, I think one thing for me, my 9 to 5, I work from home now, and it's looking like it's going to be permanent. And what that's going to do is you're going to see a lot of people start to spread out to more of the urban areas.
Absolutely.
It's cheaper to live, or just, you don't have to be so close to the office. So, go buy somewhere where you can get a bunch of land, same size house for the same price as you could in the city.
No, that's behavior is going to change. I mean, it's already changing. And again, there's going to be great opportunity. I mean, even New York in the city, people are doing an exodus. They already talking about California, it's crazy. They're like vacancy dropped to 95%. I'm like, oh my gosh, But yeah, no, I mean, it's going to hit even more. And that's mainly because they can't evict people. But it's going to be a great opportunity in New York. But yeah, I'm kind of wondering how that's going to change. Everybody was doing this great exodus to the city because they can work and play, but now they don't have to. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was great having you on the show, Mike. You have an awesome story. We usually close it off with 4 questions, so we'll run down those. You kind of answered this one already, but it's what separates potential house hackers from those that actually do it?
What separates them? Man, it's just really your goal and commitment, man. What is it that you really want to accomplish, man? And once you set the goal, one of the hard things for most people, it's not achieving it. It's being disciplined to work at it every day and having the commitment. Now that's the challenge, because you're not going to feel like getting up every day trying to find a new deal and dealing with the maintenance. So
it's a great point. I like to say everything that is good for you sucks, right? Like eating healthy sucks, working out sucks, and it's the same thing. Like if you want to see some success, you got to do some things that suck sometimes.
Yeah, the process, man. One thing I don't like about real estate, I don't like property management. Oh my goodness, I hate it. But that's what you got to
outsource.
Yeah, you got to outsource it.
So what do you have a favorite mindset or business book?
One book I really enjoyed was what is it? The big thing about big things. I think that was Andrew Markowitz. I'm probably getting this all screwed up, but it talks about how he had a hedge fund group and how you go through growing pains. And just because they were your manager at, 20 to 30 employees, that is not going to be the same manager that has you at 100 to 200 employees, and how you constantly got to change. Oh man, I forgot his name, man. But one day godly, what was that? Oh man, I forgot his name, but it's just, it's not always the same, and it's ever changing. And another book I really enjoyed was Relentless. This was Tim Harver or McGraw, I can't think of his name, but he was Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan's and trainer, and how he talked about being good, great, and the greatest, and the mindset you had, and what really it takes to be the greatest. There's a desire and a passion you have to have, and a sick work ethic in order to get there. And I think reading Malcolm Gladwell, The Outliers, helped confirm all those things. Because, you read about being disciplined, having commitment. But when he started talking about, you need most people that are highly successful, they have 10,000 hours into their craft. And that's when I realized, like, oh, that's why you got to be disciplined and passionate about, because in order to really do it, you got to put over 10,000 hours to master it. And who wants to put in 10,000 hours?
Right. What does that come out to? Like a full-time job over like 5 or 6 years?
Yes, exactly. Like you can't do it in a year. And so, in them 10,000 hours, you're going to get punched in the face quite a few times. And that's when I understood, like, that's why you got to be passionate about it. That's why you got to be committed. And that's why you got to be disciplined, because you're going to do things you don't actually love in the process. It's kind of like I like to say, I don't like running, but I love that I ran. Right.
Yeah, that's a great saying. I like that. Maybe I'll go running tomorrow. So what do you got a favorite real estate book?
No, not lately, man. I mean, I will say right now, my favorite book is right here, man. From Broke to Millions, man. That if you into real estate, this is a book I read, talks about kind of my life and how I got there and how it deals. It's real simple to read, and I think it'll be very beneficial for you, man. I mean, I've had numerous students or people read my book, and man, just after reading it, it was the missing piece they needed. They went on and bought 30 units. Matter of fact, I remember a guy, he was talking about he wanted to go buy a couple of more 2 families or 3 families. And I was like, man, why would you want to do that? You're going to put the same amount of work in. He ended up buying a total of 60 units on his first acquisition. So, man, I mean, they're doing extremely well. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't do things because they just don't know. And I'm really loving this because it's changing people's lives. It's changing their thought process, making people think bigger, it's making them take massive action and put in action steps with their dream. And that's the key on any success.
Well, anyone who wants to pick up that book, it's From Broke to Millions. We'll put
you can go in the
description.
Millions. Yeah, from broketomillions.com. You can find that and join. From there, you'll join our Facebook group, Apartment Investing Secrets, where you get tons of free content, tons of information to help you grow in your real estate career. But yeah, from broketomillions.com.
Awesome. So besides from broketomillions.com, where else can people find out more about you?
Yeah, you go to our website, www.nassauinvest.com. That's Nassau, like the Bahamas, NASSAU, invest, INVESTS.com. And you can see all our blogs. You can see some podcasts I've done. You can find our book, learn about our classes, learn about our groups. learn about all things we're doing, man. But we got a lot of great things going on, man, and we love to teach people. Like I said, we act as a bridge to get our investors, our readers, to their investment destination.
Awesome. So we'll throw the links to all that in the description. We'll link to your Instagram account too, where we connected. And I really appreciate you coming on the show, Mike. I think our listeners are going to get a lot of value from it.
Hey, thanks a lot, Drew. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. New episodes released every Wednesday and Friday.